They say every old house has its secrets, but some secrets are more dangerous than others. Whispering Pines Inn, nestled deep in the shadowy woods, is one such place, a bed and breakfast where the walls seem to breathe with the memories of those who never left. For generations, the Donovan family has kept the doors open, welcoming travelers seeking comfort and peace. But those who stay too long might find that the warmth of the inn is only a mask, hiding something far more sinister. Tonight, two unsuspecting guests will uncover the dark truth that lurks behind the inn's cozy facade, where the past refuses to stay buried and whispers of the forgotten can still be heard. Our story begins on a crisp autumn evening. The leaves had turned golden and the air carried the scent of pine and wood smoke. Margaret was preparing the inn for her latest guests, a young couple named Emily and David. They had come to Whispering Pines for a weekend getaway, eager to escape the hustle and bustle of city life. Margaret greeted them with her usual warmth, showing them to their room, a charming space with a large bed, a crackling fireplace, and a window overlooking the woods. Margaret said, "Make yourselves at home. Dinner will be ready in an hour. I've made my famous beef stew, perfect for a chilly night like this." Emily and David thanked her and settled into their room, delighted by the cozy atmosphere. They spent the next hour exploring the inn, marveling at the old photographs on the walls, the antique furniture, and the intricate wooden carvings that adorned the doors and banisters. There was something timeless about Whispering Pines, something that made them feel as though they had stepped back into a simpler, safer time. But as they explored, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. She mentioned it to David, but he laughed it off, attributing it to the inn's old-world charm. David said, "You're just getting spooked by the atmosphere. This place is perfect. Let's just enjoy it." Dinner was served in the cozy dining room, where Margaret had set the table with care. The beef stew was delicious, and the conversation flowed easily. Margaret told them stories of the inn's history, of the many travelers who had passed through its doors over the years. But when Emily asked about the old faded photograph of a little girl that hung above the fireplace, Margaret's demeanor changed ever so slightly. Margaret said, "Oh, that's just a relic from the past. The girl in the picture was my great-aunt. She grew up here, but she passed away many years ago. Nothing to dwell on." The conversation moved on, but Emily couldn't shake the image of the little girl's face. There was something haunting in her eyes, something that made Emily uneasy. Later that night, as they were settling into bed, Emily heard something strange, a faint whispering sound, almost like the wind rustling through the trees, but more deliberate. She sat up, straining to hear, but the sound stopped as suddenly as it had started. Emily whispered to David, who was already half asleep. "Did you hear that?" David mumbled. "Hear what?" Emily said. "That whispering. It was so faint, but I swear I heard it." David sat up, listening for a moment, but all was silent. He shook his head and lay back down. "It's just the wind, Em. Go back to sleep," he said. But Emily couldn't sleep. The sense of being watched had returned, stronger now, and she felt a chill that the warm blankets couldn't dispel. She tried to tell herself it was just her imagination, but deep down, she knew something wasn't right. The next morning, Emily woke up early, the strange events of the night still fresh in her mind. She decided to explore the inn again while David slept, hoping to find something that would ease her unease. She wandered through the hallways, her footsteps echoing in the quiet of the early morning. As she passed by a door at the end of the hallway, she heard it again, that faint whispering just beyond the door. Her heart raced as she slowly pushed the door open. Inside was a small, dusty room, filled with old furniture and forgotten belongings. And in the center of the room, standing perfectly still, was the little girl from the photograph. Emily froze, her breath catching in her throat. The girl's eyes were the same, haunting, sorrowful, and filled with a knowing that no child should possess. She opened her mouth to speak, but the words died in her throat as the girl slowly faded away like a wisp of smoke. Terrified, Emily ran back to their room and woke David, her words tumbling out in a rush. Emily said, "There's a ghost in this inn, David. I saw her, the little girl from the photograph. She was there right in front of me." David, now fully awake, saw the terror in Emily's eyes and knew she wasn't imagining things. He quickly dressed and followed Emily back to the room, but when they opened the door, it was empty, just as it had been the night before. Determined to get to the bottom of the mystery, they confronted Margaret. Emily said, "Margaret, we know there's something going on in this inn. I saw the ghost of that little girl." "Who was she, really?" Margaret's face softened, and she sighed deeply. Margaret said, "I was hoping you wouldn't find out. The girl in the photograph was my great-aunt, yes, but she didn't die of natural causes. She was taken. No one ever figured out what happened to her. Some say she was lured into the woods by something dark, something that still haunts these parts. Her spirit never found peace, and she's been here ever since, trapped between our world and the next." The couple listened in shock as Margaret recounted the tragic tale. The little girl's ghost was indeed real, a restless spirit unable to move on. Margaret continued, "She doesn't mean any harm. She just wants to be remembered, to know that someone cares." With that, Emily understood. The little girl wasn't trying to scare her. She was reaching out, desperate to be acknowledged. That night, Emily and David sat by the fire in the little room where Emily had seen the girl. They lit a candle and placed it by the photograph, whispering words of comfort and peace. Emily said softly, "We remember you. You're not alone." The wind outside seemed to calm, and for the first time since their arrival, Emily felt a sense of peace. The next morning, they left Whispering Pines Inn, the mystery of the little girl resolved. But as they drove away, Emily glanced back at the inn, catching a glimpse of the little girl in the window, her face no longer sorrowful, but at peace.